According to the prearranged protocol, after entering the venue at the August 1st building, Xi Jinping proceeded to complete the promotion to general ceremony strictly by the script, the order of promotion, the salute, the group photo, the applause. Yet precisely at the moment of the group photo, something felt off. The center position, C position, was no longer as clean and decisive as in the past, no longer belonging unmistakably to a single person. Moreover, the long-awaited filling of vacancies at the full general, 4-star, level resulted in only 2 promotions, both officers from the Air Force, and both figures whose factional affiliations were not particularly pronounced. The whole scene felt less like a triumphant elevation of power, and more like a hand-in-the-paper type of promotion ceremony, as if it were merely completing a required task under a much larger and more complex power arrangement. Could this be a public microcosm of a broader realignment of authority? Don't miss the next drop, subscribe and hit the bell. December 22nd, a long-delayed promotion ceremony, with only 2 generals. The official media version was impeccably standardized. At approximately 10:30 a.m. on December 22nd, the Central Military Commission, CMC, held a promotion to general ceremony at the August 1st building in Beijing. Zhang Youxia read out the promotion order signed by Xi Jinping. Zhang Shengmin presided over the ceremony. Xi Jinping presented the promotion certificates to Yang Zhibin and Han Shengyan and offered his congratulations. CMC member Lu Zhenli, along with responsible officials from CMC departments and Beijing-based units, attended the event. But what truly drew attention were 2 aspects that defied normal expectations. First, why was the ceremony delayed until the very end of the year? Some observers believe that against the backdrop of ongoing anti-corruption campaigns and personnel upheaval within the military, senior leadership has become extremely cautious about who can be promoted. Better to delay than to back the wrong person. Second, why only 2 promotions? In October, authorities had just announced that He Weidong, Miao Hua, and 7 other generals, 9 in total, were expelled from the Communist Party, stripped of military rank, and transferred to military prosecutors for investigation and prosecution. With so many vacancies and shocks at the general level, logic would suggest a larger, stabilizing round of promotions. Yet only 2 key theater commanders were elevated this time, sending a clear message to the entire PLA. The number of movable slots is limited, and the number of people everyone can agree on is even smaller. Thus emerges the first inference in this narrative. This was not a normal personnel celebration, but rather the minimum consensus reached after prolonged stalemate. The dual center, in the camera frame, the C position is no longer absolute. The visual language of the ceremony photographs speaks volumes. In the group photo, Xi Jinping and Zhang Youxia stood side by side, forming a rare dual-center composition. Zhang Shengmin and Lu Zhenli stood on either side. The 2 newly promoted generals, Yang Zhibin and Han Shengyan, stood in the back row. Such positional interpretation is a classic method of political observation. Official media never explain it, but the camera does. For a leader who has long emphasized the notion of a singular core, the absence of an unambiguous, exclusive C position is enough to ignite speculation. Has a de facto dual leadership structure emerged within the military? This group photo resembles a public compromise. Nominally, it remains the supreme commander granting promotions. In reality, it showcases a new military order to the outside world. The 2 most sensitive theater commands, entrusted to Air Force officers. Even more intriguing are the positions themselves. The Central Theater Command safeguards the capital. The Eastern Theater Command faces the Taiwan Strait and the East China Sea, the core direction for any Taiwan-related military action. Traditionally, theater commanders often come from the army. Yet this time, both of the most critical theaters were entrusted to officers with Air Force backgrounds. Singapore's Lianhe Xiaobao noted that both men came from the Air Force and suggested that, amid intensified anti-corruption efforts, the Air Force, having been less entangled in earlier corruption scandals, may be viewed as a relatively safer option. Yang Zhibin came from the 26th Division of the 8th Air Corps stationed in Fujian. His former superior was Xu Qiliang, vice chairman of the CMC, who died suddenly of illness in June this year. The former Air Force commander Ding Liehang, who fell in 2023, also came from the same 8th Air Corps. Both Ding and Yang once served as commanders of the Fuzhou Air Force Command Post. Although Xi Jinping consolidated control over party, government, and military power in 2012, Yang Zhibin's career trajectory soon diverged. In December 2014, he was transferred to serve as Deputy Chief of Staff of the Lanzhou Military Region and concurrently Chief of Staff of its Air Force. After Xi's military reforms, Yang was appointed in January 2016 as Director of the Air Force Disposition Office of the Lanzhou Military Region, a position likened to doing clerical work in a retirement home, marking a low point in his career. In April 2017, he became commander of the Shaanxi Provincial Military District, still not a frontline post. Only in March 2021 did he rise to deputy commander of the Southern Theater Command, later moving laterally to the Western Theater Command in 2023, and finally to deputy commander of the Eastern Theater Command in September 2025. As for Han Shengyan, protocol suggested that during this year's September 3rd military parade, the overall commander should have been Wang Chang, an Air Force general and commander of the Central Theater Command. Instead, the role went to Han Shengyan, then a lieutenant general and Air Force commander of the Central Theater Command, widely interpreted as a symbolic downgrading of Xi Jinping's authority during the parade. Han's subsequent replacement of Wang Chang effectively confirmed rumors that Wang had encountered trouble. Public records show that Han Shengyan was born in May 1963 in Zhangjiago, Hebei. Between 2002 and 2003, he commanded the 29th and 3rd Aviation Divisions of the Nanjing Military Region Air Force. He later served as Deputy Chief of Staff of the Chengdu Military Region Air Force, Chief of Staff of the Lanzhou Military Region Air Force, Deputy Commander of the Chengdu Military Region Air Force, Commander of the Air Force Test and Training Base, Deputy Commander of the newly formed Western Theater Command, and, from July 2018, Commander of the Central Theater Command Air Force. From their resumes, neither Yang nor Han appears to be a close military confidant of Xi Jinping, nor of Zhang Youxia. This shifts the interpretation from professional military appointments toward power-balancing compromises. She wants to preserve the formal image of being able to confer ranks as supreme commander. Zhang wants to ensure that key theaters do not revert to Xi's inner circle. Thus, centrists are brought in, first to keep the table steady, with the question of who ultimately gets the meat postponed. October's knife, 9 generals purged, the command structure hollowed out. Looking back to October 17, the Ministry of National Defense and official media announced that 9 senior officers, including He Weidong and Miao Hua, were expelled from the party and the military and transferred for judicial handling. The gravity of the announcement lay in the identities involved: a CMC vice chairman, the head of the political work department controlling promotions, and multiple high-ranking commanders, using unusually harsh language. This publicly tore open the most sensitive layers of military personnel, political work, and command chains. Later in October, Hong Kong Sing Tao Daily reported that since the 20th Party Congress, 28 generals had fallen or disappeared. Also noting the unusually high absence rate of military Central Committee members during the 4th plenum, statistics often used by observers to gauge the level of internal turbulence. Seen in this light, the December 22 ceremony, with only 2 promotions, reads as the aftershock of October's strike. First, a major purge. Then, a minimal refill. First, hollowing out. Then, slowly filling the gaps with figures acceptable to all sides. The slowness itself is telling, the internal tug-of-war continues. December 15, publicly soliciting clues on Air Force procurement, putting family scandals on the table. 1 week before the promotion ceremony, the Military Procurement Network issued a public notice soliciting reports of irregular procurement practices within Air Force units, with submissions accepted until June 30, 2026. Multiple media outlets described this society-wide solicitation as highly unusual. In narrative terms, the political signal is heavy. If it were merely anti-corruption, it would normally be handled behind closed doors. Once it becomes public, it serves not only investigation, but deterrence, preemptive condemnation, and intimidation. Commentator Wu Zuolai remarked. The promotion ceremony was Xi Jinping completing a task, completing the task assigned by Zhang Youxia. In this narrative, the ceremony and the public solicitation form a paired sequence. The former shows you the new order. The latter puts the blade on your neck as a warning not to move. Rumors and inference: why talk of wiping out the Air Force is so dangerous right now? In December, alongside the public call for reports on Air Force procurement corruption, rumors circulated that Air Force Commander Chang Dingqiu and political commissar Guo Puxiao were under investigation. On December 11, political scholar Lu Juning posted on X that Chang Dingqiu had allegedly died of a heart attack during retention questioning by the military discipline authorities. This is not about verifying medical facts, but about understanding political timing. Why select 2 Air Force officers as theater commanders? Because if the Air Force truly becomes the eye of the storm, the most urgent priority is to place mutually acceptable figures in control of the most critical theater's air dominance. Otherwise, instability in both the eastern and central theaters simultaneously would be genuinely uncontrollable. As military purges spread from the rocket force and political work systems into the Air Force, the first forced concession is often not a particular service branch, but who controls the power to decide promotions to full general. Thus, the December 22 ceremony, on the surface marking the birth of 2 new generals, reads more like a military power settlement statement. 2 promotions reveal fierce bargaining behind limited slots. 2 Air Force officers reveal a centrist solution born of mutual distrust. A dual-center group photo reveals a shift in the grammar of power display. Combined with the December 15 public solicitation of corruption clues, it signals that this storm is not ending, but entering its next phase. The winter solstice has just passed. In Beijing, what may be colder than the weather is the return of an old military saying. What comes out of the barrel of a gun? First watch the positioning, then the appointments, and finally see who gets to fill the list of full generals.